Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines, because it is I, the obscurist tourist, and today I come to you from my hometown, my home base, Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And why am I here today? Well, it's been a pretty busy summer, and I thought I would take a little break, take a month off, recoup, do some editing, get some things together, do some planning. And while I was here, I forgot this was taking place. This right behind me, this line right here, this is the start-finish line to the Toronto Molson Indy. Whoa. Let me correct that. It is no longer called the Molson Indy. It is called, what is it called? The Honda Toronto Indy. Yes, one of the only professional street races in the world. There's only a handful. I think there's only 2 on the Indy circuit, and this is one of them right here in downtown Toronto on public streets, no less. How cool is that? Princess Gates. We are here in Exhibition Place. Let's take a look around. More importantly, let's take a ride around on our bicycle while they set up the track, because how many people can say they rode their bicycle on a real racetrack? So let's do it. Let's show you around. The Honda Indy Toronto, originally known as the Molson Toronto Indy, as I've said before, is Indy Car's second longest running street race, only behind the Grand Prix of Long Beach in California. It started out as part of the Champ Kart World Series in 1986 and ran until 2007. Eventually becoming part of the NTT Indy Car Series schedule in 2009. The race takes place on a 2.984 kilometer or 1.786 mile 11-turn temporary street circuit through the Exhibition Place grounds and on Lakeshore Boulevard. Now, if you've watched my videos before, then you've likely seen me feature Lakeshore Boulevard. It's one of the main arteries for street traffic in and out of the city, and a very unlikely setting for cars racing at speeds of over 200 miles per hour. This was also the site of one of the worst crashes in racing history, when on July 14, 1996, with just 3 laps to go, rookie driver Jeff Krosnoff was negotiating turn 3 when his car made wheel-to-wheel contact with the car of Stefan Johansson, sending it into the air over a concrete barrier and into the catching fence lining the street course.
Well, with this rather serious accident over in turn 3, they have just displayed on the front stretch the red and checkered flag. Here is the replay. Eddie Lawson into Krosnoff.
No, that is actually Stefan Johansson there.
Johansson.
And he was moving out to pass another car, which looked like it was Gilles de Ferran. I don't think he saw Krosnoff. He couldn't have seen him.
The fence did not stop the car enough to keep it from hitting a tree located outside the fence, and then a light post. The violence of the accident left the car broken in half and sent the cockpit section back across the track. Even though the paramedics were there almost immediately, Krosnoff was already dead by the time they arrived to help. A track volunteer was also killed in the accident when he was struck by the right front wheel of Krosnoff's then airborne car. Many lessons were learned from that fateful, tragic, and horrific day in Toronto all those years ago. So much so, there hasn't been a single fatality in a Toronto street race since. And right down there is turn 3, what all the racers were readying themselves for when that crash in 1996 happened. So we will take you, we are now going clockwise of how the racers actually race. This is the way they go. Obviously, way higher speeds than I'm going on my bicycle currently, but I'm going to give you a good sort of perspective. This would be, I assume this would be turn 4, You see some of the tires there, just sitting there in case drivers lose control. And there is a cyclist beside me who has overtaken me on this track. And do I put my camera down and take him on? Because we are on a racetrack here. I feel like we gotta catch up. We gotta pass this guy. Oh, he is going off track. That is not fair. I guess we'll never know if we would have passed him. But you can just see how narrow this circuit really is. Very interesting. And it just shows you how little margin of error there really is when going at the speeds that Indy car drivers are going at here. Just crazy. Like, honestly, it's mind-boggling that anyone's brain can process information at that speed. Reaction time, everything just accelerated. It's super impressive. I haven't actually been here in the grounds for the Toronto Indy, Honday Indy. I don't know why I keep screwing that up, but it has been quite a few years. Might have even been 15, 20 years since I've last been here and taken in one of these races. But I have a soft spot in my heart for it because I always remember my mom and my dad taking me here when I was very, very young. Had to have been the first years of the Toronto Indy. In fact, it may have been the very first Toronto Indy in 1986, maybe even 1987. But I do remember, I don't remember much about it, but I do remember it was a hot day. And I remember that a black car, I know, really narrows things down. A black car, number one, won the race. So maybe after I film this video, I'll go home and I'll do some research and see who was driving that black number one car, because that will help fill in a few of my memories and maybe might even narrow down what year I went to this event. This is pit lane, and as you can see, workers are working diligently to finish this thing up for next weekend's race. This bridge, not a permanent structure. They take it out every year. Check that view out. Like, this is what you would be seeing when you're going over 200 miles an hour. Just crazy. Like I said, some of the spectator bleachers here, right here in pit row, actually. Just look at this. This is one of the wider sections of the track. And look at that, right up there, that is TFC, Toronto FC's MLS soccer team. That's their home stadium. So that's something else you'd be passing when you'd be coming this way. This stretch of track is actually one of the fastest parts of the entire race because it is one of the only straightaways, as you can see from those lights, straight down to turn 3 at Ontario Boulevard. It's a straight shot, so this is where drivers can really ramp things up, make up ground, and it's also one of the most dangerous parts because as you're preparing for turn 3, right here, right behind me, just past those bleachers, that street right there is Ontario. They will close down from this section here. You can just see how small, how narrow that really is. There's like a sort of safety runoff during the race. Drivers can go in there. But this is where the Krosnoff crash occurred. Right here. This is where his car got airborne, hit this fence. There used to be a giant tree right here on the other side of the fence. Car hit there, hit this light standard, and went back over, broke into I don't know how many pieces, but it was truly one of the worst crashes in the history of racing. Very sad day for the city of Toronto, for Canada, for Tulsa, Oklahoma, where Krosnoff was from, and for the Indy racing world as a whole. Terrible incident. So you can see, car crashes here. There isn't much room for error. Pieces were strewn all over the place. Very, very dangerous incident with tragic consequences that killed 2 people. And it's interesting, as I was doing some research about the infamous fatal crash here at the Toronto Indy back in 1996, I stumbled across something that I'd never actually seen before, and very interesting. So if you come around these parts, listen, pay tribute, pay homage. It is a plaque dedicated to Jeff Krosnoff, the driver, and Gary Arvin, the track official. And you can see July 14, 1996 is when both men were killed, right here, just past these bleachers behind this sign, right here. We are almost back to pit lane, just around this corner. I mean, we're in a race. We can't possibly stop. We are going to keep going. They would make a right here. Once again, you see BMO Field in front of us. And the cars and drivers veer left right there. That is pit lane. You're going to stay on the track, go around just a few more turns before we are back to the start of the race. Sad, I can't actually show you what it's like to ride on Lakeshore because it is open until the very last minute, a very busy artery in the city here in Toronto. So they won't close that down until Friday evening. And then Saturday, qualifications begin. And of course, Sunday, the big race itself. You can see everything being prepped. It's also super impressive that they are able to set this all up in a very short amount of time. But they do it every year, except for 2020, the year in which everything, all events in the city, cities all around the world, were closed down. So they're professionals. They've done this so many times before. So I shouldn't actually be as impressed as I am with the speed in which they pull off this entire event. You see way off in the distance there, that is the Princess Gates, once again slowly approaching the start line. Now, although I can't go on Lakeshore Boulevard to do this entire race start to finish, I can guesstimate that it would probably take me between 7 and 8 minutes to ride around this entire one lap, which is pretty crazy. Sort of really shows you just how short this track is when combining it with speeds of cars that are going hundreds of miles an hour. Just absolutely bonkers. This is interesting because these are all of the tires, or some of them anyway. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more that will help form the safety barriers for the drivers, the cars, and for the spectators. Look at this. Princess Gates, right here in Toronto. The start and end to the Honda Toronto Indy. I hope you enjoyed my little foray, my little ride, my little explore of the Honda Toronto Indy track right here in, where else? Toronto, Ontario, Canada. For now, it is the Obscurist Tourist wishing you all the best. Stay safe, stay beautiful, and until our next adventure, see you later.